good to see the sun. I already act like I'm from here. Really concerned about the weather in South Bend. I'd like to say that off the start. You checked it? No need.
Okay, good.
It's cold.
Yeah, that's right. Speaking of weather, this is a little bit of a random question, but are you going to take one of those summer tours with the team this
We're
summer?
working on it, yes. That's our plan.
Do you have any
Working on
like
it now.
destinations in mind?
Looking at Vancouver,
That'd be cool.
playing the Canadian college teams.
Okay.
It's something I've done in the past, back towards Montreal and Ottawa. Obviously, Vancouver's closer. And I have a relationship with the president at British Columbia. He was the president at Cincinnati, St. Anthony. And he's on a commission. He's on some sort of, a lot smarter guys than me, committee with Chancellor Block. But yeah, that's probably, it'd be, he's obviously easier, quick flight. So I'm working on that for next August. It's not in stone yet, but that's what we're trying to do.
David's foot. How's
It looks good.
Probably
Looks good. I wish I recovered like some of these guys.
So he'll probably be able to go.
Yeah. I mean, knock on wood. Yeah, everybody's a go right now. Got a couple more practices, so hopefully nobody's head explodes during finals.
You saw what this team did in its first true road game last year, because you were on the other side of it. What is the challenge of taking a young team on the road for the first time in a season?
That's all we talked about in practice today. That's my job. You've got to practice the next play. You can't let a snowball effect occur, which you saw last year. You saw it. So we got to practice staying together. What people don't know about me is that, you watch me maybe coach like the Denver game. I know we're going to win, so I'm coaching that game like practice. Saturday is a different story. I got to keep these guys. I got to keep their head up. We got to keep our arms around each other. You got to stay together on the road, because other than all the people I got coming from Cincinnati, then I'm bringing them Bruin shirts. So we'll have a nice contingent of 20 or 30. It's just you and your bench when you're on the road. And you got to stay together. I love it. My dad tells me the greatest feat will ever be in my career. We won 8 straight road games in the Big East one time.
What year was that?
I can't remember. It's been 6, 7, 8 years, something like that. I mean, back in the real Big East.
And you know Notre Dame from the Big East. And
oh yeah, Mike and I are very close. We're both. I'm going to go recruiting Sunday. I need to call him, because if we're going to the same place, we need to use his plane. We might be going to the same place, so I need to check with him on that. I forgot about that. I'm not coming back with the team, but yeah, I mean, he's a great friend of mine, great coach. They always lead the country or top 5 in fewest turnovers, all the way back to my Big East days. They always led the Big East in fewest turnovers. They just do a great job of. They play with great pace on offense. I mean, nobody on their team does things they can't do. The shooters shoot it. The point guard dribbles it. They hit the first open man. He's always just done an unbelievable job of that. I mean, we've actually, when we got out of leagues, and when the Big East broke up, Mike and I talked a lot, about me with him about defense, him with me about my team that won here. I met with him a lot of just talking about offense. So, I mean, we share ideas, all that stuff. So they've always been great at that. So you can't turn the ball over, because they're not going to turn it over. Notre Dame just doesn't turn it over.
They're a little bit of a team in flux right now. Coach said that it was his hardest week at Notre Dame last week with the Maryland and then the BC game. They had a player transfer and a player who lost for a season-ending surgery or injury. So what are you seeing with them right now? I know they had a good game against Detroit Mercy and hit a ton of threes the other night or last night. But
yeah, I'm a big believer sometimes that adversity, as brutal as it is, it can help you, because it brings I went through in 2011. We had a melee with the crosstown team, and we went to the Sweet 16. Played for the Big East championship. sometimes it can bring you close. Good coaches use it to bring their team closer together, and Mike's an elite coach. So it didn't surprise me watching them last night that, you could just see that the guys that are there, how much they banded together. You could just see their mojo was different. I understand that Detroit's struggling, but they looked like a different team. So I think they used it to their advantage for sure. That and it's just a long year. I think he's a really good coach. He's got some veteran guys that they should have beat BC probably, but other than that, Maryland's top 5. You lose at Maryland, you lose at Carolina in a tough one. A game they could have won if Cole Anthony doesn't start impersonating LeBron James. If you saw it late, it was crazy. Mm-hmm. So they could have won that game. So they're probably one game off where they should be.
A bunch of guys here played against Notre Dame last year.
Yeah.
What have you talked to them about from that game? Jalen Hill, defense at the end, anything that you picked up from them?
No, not a whole lot. We don't talk. We don't talk a lot about last year, and we won't do that once we get to the Pac-12 either. I think it's just a totally different game. You got different coaches, you got different players. We're just, we're so different than these guys were last year that there's not a whole lot of a point in it. I think, for us, it's more talking about our road game, good team. Notre Dame needs a win because they gave one up. They probably regret against BC. So they're going to get their best shot. So we got to be ready.
Listening to you kind of be part of this rivalry now.
Oh, it's cool. Yeah, it's cool. So, when it was a real rivalry, I'm gonna brag and say, I was still young. I'm not that old. Not as young as you, but I don't quite remember. When was this? When was the upset? What year was that?
74.
Yeah, I was 30. So, the era where the throwback game it was the game. I was still kind of young, but it's cool. Obviously you got both of our universities are world renowned universities. They're not just national universities. Both our universities are world renowned. So it's extremely good. And Mike and I have talked. Trying to keep the series going is tough because we're going to 20 games and they're in 20 games. But I'd like to find a way to try to keep it going as much as we can.
With the pulling guys out of games, is there kind of a balancing act between teaching them, like the quick hooks for mistakes?
Oh,
is there a balancing act between teaching and not rattling confidence?
Yeah, what I would tell you is you'll get to know me. Like I tell you, coaching did that. First of all, Jalen Hill takes him. He walking off the court because he knows he's got his 4th foul with 12 minutes to play. He's smart.
Yeah,
he's taking himself out.
Right.
He's got a guy who knows knew he had 3.5. He knows he just got his 4th and there's 12 minutes on the clock. People tell me, the guy's just walking to the bench because he made a mistake. But he didn't make a mistake. He fouled. He fouled. And there's 12 minutes left. The guy knows Cody fouls. He knows he's got his 4th. People get used to that. But there's times where you're practicing, like I told you, certain game, early season games. I'm coaching the game more like it's a practice because you're trying. What you got to try to do, like a play like Prince, misses a layup and then immediately fouls the guy 86 feet from the basket. I need to take him out right away and explain to him and the team, we're going to win anyway. Right. Like you can't do that at Notre Dame. That could cost us the game.
Yeah.
Whether it's this team, we're so young. We are not talented enough to overcome, mistakes, whatever you want to call them, bonehead plays. You pick your adjective, foul, whatever you want to call foul 86 feet from the basket, whatever you want to call a player getting a technical foul. It already cost us one game. Cody knows it. He was in my office the next day almost crying. He's searching me out to apologize. He didn't sleep. But we got to grow up. They care. It's my job. So it's my job to teach them. Like, there's certain things that are going to get us beat in a real game. so there's so it's totally different in a game like a Denver, where I'm pretty confident we're going to be okay.
I noticed some guys come out and sit in the chair between coaches.
Yeah, it's
Sabino and Lewis, teaching chair, and they're kind of talking to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's your job, teaching guys. And people probably make too much of it. Oh, it's funny, it's funny in coaching. Some people, it's like, well, you got to make them accountable, and you make them accountable, and some people, it's too hard on them. So when you have my job, you got to realize that there'll always be scrutiny in how you do your job. But it doesn't bother me, because one thing I can tell you is I know I'm not perfect, and I know. But you try to teach. You never want to take guys' confidence, because there's a time you do have to make a point. Okay, but there's other times it's like you can't take a guy out. You got nobody to put in.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on. People are watching. They're trying to analyze, and I get it. Everybody with ESPN's a coach now. I mean, it just is what it is. But the guys. One thing you'll learn from our guys right away. They know I care about them more as a person than as a player. So that doesn't mean I'm right the way we do things. I'm well aware of that. I'm always analyzing, what you should have done.
The three. Sorry.
Go ahead.
The three-point
We'll get it.
percentage is now 30.9%.
Yeah, we got to get that up. Some of that's shot selection, some of it's youth. Prince has gotten off to a tough start. I've been working with him a lot on squaring up. Some of it is our shot selection. Some of it's law of averages. I mean, you want a stat that's really driving you nuts. Look at our opponent's free throw percentage. It's ungodly. What is it?
74.3.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Can't defend that, but so some of it evens out over the year. But shot selection is part of it. We get younger team. We get in a little bit of a hurry at times.
Yes. How do you get your team to play 40 minutes of defense, especially?
I got that answer. Get them to next year. So it's funny. Mike Bray and I used to talk. We still were friends for years. But back when we were in the Big East, and I had to rebuild. We were young, and he just said minutes played. I said, what do you mean? Until Tiger Campbell's and Jalen Hill's, until they get minutes played in real games and learn how to play through it and learn how to play 40 minutes. It's hard. There is no magic potion. And then while they're young, though, sometimes you got to use trickery. You got to change. Trickery would be changing defenses. Anything you can do to maybe hide their youth, to try to steal wins. But the true answer is to get them to be a year older. Get them to have experience. Inexperienced players get tired and they struggle to sustain. It's hard for young teams to impose their will on older teams. It's just a fact. College basketball, you better be really super talented or you better be older. At the high level, because I coached it, we're in the Pac-12 now, and I was in the Big East back with Mike and I. It's like, he used to tell you, I remember my third year and we were really young. He said, you're going to be really good. And I said, really? He goes, yeah, but not till next year. And he said, these guys need minutes played. So we just got to stick with it, and it's my job to get them through it as much as I can get them through it. But that's just our reality. And that's just where we're at.
Yeah, it seems like this team over the past few years, even though you weren't here, they always had problems defending the three.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I would say, man, look, the stats would say they had problems defending everything. We're getting there. Our talk's getting better. I think the guy, our attitude is correct about it. The biggest thing you got to teach young guys is how to take a punch and keep fighting. Because what happens is young guys, the body language, and then it becomes instead of a 2-point run for the other team, it's a 10-point run. You got to learn how to stop a run. And you can't get down on ourselves. We can't. That's what we're practicing. We're actually practice that.
How do you
talk
practice
about
that?
question.
How do you practice that?
You talk about it as coaches, and as we're in drills, you force them to talk. You force them to, hey, Ben, get you got beat, next play, Ben, let's go score on them. To be cognizant of it. that we're not going to win at Notre Dame. We're not going to go in there and go rah rah and win by 20. It just doesn't happen. So we got to know it's going to be a dogfight. We got to make it a dogfight and try to steal a win and get on the plane. And the only way we can do that is we're not going to fall apart. We're not going to fall apart and turn it over. We're not going to let each other hang our heads. We're not going to let each other do that. It starts with me. You know, it starts with our coaching staff. You got to practice it. I mean, you know, you got to know, you got to practice. It's going to be hard to win. So let's know it. Let's accept it. Let's figure it out. We got to stay together. So it's just, you know, the way we work on things. But the guys, their want to is there. It's just going to be a process all year for us. You know, that's the hardest part. But I think we got some of them. You got anybody, Alex?
Yeah.
There's Prince.
Thanks.
All right, guys.